Okay, Julie, we're on.
All right.
All right, so
Sounds good.
good. Welcome to today's Jewelry Makers Guild podcast, where we dive into the creative driving forces of fellow jewelers. I'm Tonya Davidson, the creator of the Jewelry Makers Guild and a fellow maker of over 24 years. In my quest to learn as much as I can, try as many techniques and materials as I can, and to share that information with other artists, I decided to do this podcast. I do want to note that school has started and everybody and their brother and sister is using Zoom and the internet. So if for some reason we get stuck or you don't hear us, don't worry, the replay will be available on the group page and you can join us then to see what you missed. So it might be good to watch it again anyway. So I thought it would be fun to find out what inspires our fellow artists and makes their work so dang good. So please help me welcome to my podcast today, Julie Sanford of Studio JSD Designs and Julie Sanford Designs. Hi, Julie.
Yes. Hi. Yeah, thank you, Tanya. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here today with you.
Thank you for accepting my invitation. It was a little tough with people. Some of them are like shy and don't want to be on camera. I totally get it. So for those of you who don't know Julie, let me introduce her. Julie has been creating and exhibiting artisan jewelry for over 30 years and is an award-winning artist. Her education includes jewelry classes at the Kalamazoo Institute of Arts and a degree of education from Western Michigan University. She also studied at Kendall College of Art and Design, the Chicago Institute of Arts at Oxbow, and the Revere Academy of Jewelry Arts in San Francisco. Her path includes 15 years in fine jewelry retail and 5 years as a K-12 visual art instructor, a teacher. Julie has been offering jewelry classes and workshops and presentations at conferences, universities, and craft centers. In private studios since 1998. Combining her love of art, jewelry, and education, she is now the director of Studio JSD, a metalsmith's workshop and gallery in Grand Haven, Michigan. Studio JSD is a 3,400 square foot facility that houses a fully equipped shared studio space, which you can see behind her, private bench rentals, a jewelry store and supply store, and an artisan gallery featuring the work of over 25 local and regional artisans and makers. She also serves on the board of the Michigan Silversmiths Guild, is an active member of her Chamber of Commerce, and helps the community and nonprofit committees with fundraising and special event organization. In the bottom right-hand corner of the screen below, you'll find Julie's website and social media pages. Be sure to check those out and follow her. I will post in the comments at the end of this interview, after it's concluded, all of her contact information to her various social media sites. Okay, I think we're still there. Are you still there, Julie?
I'm still here. Yeah.
Okay, good.
So far, so good.
Yeah, your picture is stuck for some reason on mine, but as long as I can hear you, I think we're all good. Okay, so my first question is,
Okay.
I'm curious, can you share with us your earliest memory about making jewelry?
Well, my earliest memories of making with metal, would probably include when I was younger. I used to like take wire, like the bread bag twisties, and I would twist little things out of the wire and make like little animals or little rings, like rings that you could wear with bread ties. So I do remember doing that when I was younger. Another thing that's kind of embarrassing is that I made a retainer out of a paper clip, and because all the cool kids had braces, and I put that on my mouth, and I actually wore it to school and tried to fake people into thinking that I had a retainer. um and I also remember taking corsage pins, like at a wedding, just picking up all the loose corsage pins that had the pearl ends on them and clipping them down and making like little pearl stud earrings. So I remember doing those kinds of silly things when I
Oh,
was younger, but I've always wanted to make jewelry.
that's awesome. I remember now that I haven't thought about a retainer in like 40 years or so, and now I think, oh my gosh, I think I was with you. I wanted one of those too, even when they had to wear the headgear ones. And it just seemed kind of cool because everyone had braces and retainers. um,
Yeah, because the cool kids had them. Yeah, you had to have one too.
So, as we talk, I'm going to be showing on the screen some slides of your work, your studio and school, and what you're currently working on for our viewers. So, let's dive into the next question so I can show some of your beautiful work. Your flatware is up, which is just amazing. But now I'm
Thank
sure
you.
they want to see your pendants and all sorts of other pieces. So, my second question is, in your artistic career, if it was a collage, who or what would be the different parts of the collage that you would put into the piece? What would be like the glue and the glitter from the basic materials that made you the artist that you are today?
Well, I have to say that the biggest inspiration for me as a maker was my father. So my parents were divorced and he didn't live in the home with us, but he was a lapidary hobbyist and a jewelry maker hobbyist. And so he had all of the equipment and the tools, and he would make me things that were super special because they were from him. But he passed away when I was 16, and I didn't learn the trade from him, but I did collect and inherit all of his rocks and his tools and his jewelry that he made and things like that. So, at that time, I just knew, that's just what I wanted to do. So my dad is a huge, huge chunk of that collage. Of course, my education is kind of woven in there because I've taken a lot of classes at a lot of different places from some amazing instructors. So that's super important. And then the students that I've been teaching throughout the years have also, added a lot of color and sparkle to the collage. But I think the glue that holds it all together is probably the community. Because if you don't have the community, it's not as meaningful if you're,
Right.
solo, going through life solo. So the community, the metalsmith community, just gives you that sense of connectedness, and it is really the glue that holds it all together.
True, so true. That for me, community is huge, and I'm always seeking it out as evidence of this group, having a new group. And my father also was a huge influence. So
Yeah.
many things that drive us and make us better artists and better people too. Um, I'm just giving a shout out to my tech team that
Mhm.
your picture is frozen, although I see it on my screen, so maybe they can come in and fix it. But on to the next question. So I think the best art is made by people who are driven by
Okay.
an underlying need to communicate, to leave their mark, to express their stories. What drives your work? What are you trying to communicate with every mark or with materials that you use, or a theme or an inspiration?
That can be a really tricky question, a really hard question, because there's so many different things that drive me with different types of pieces or different types of work that I make. Um, but for me, what really drives me is that lost feeling that you get when you're working on something really special to you. Like when you're creating something, there's just that place that you go to inside yourself that I don't know, some people call it their happy place or their zen or whatever, but it's just you just kind of get lost in the making and in the process of it. And I think that's really what drives me to make. And then yeah, it's great to be able to share it with other people and to have other people get really connected with it. But I think it's just that whole feeling of I don't know if it's an aesthetic feeling. When I was a teacher, it's kind of hard to communicate that to kids.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody can really feel that connection, and once you describe it to them, they're like, oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And I heard another artist explain it this way to kids. it's like on a really hot summer day. So if you can imagine this, the sun, it's hot, it's steamy, and you have a garden hose, and that garden hose is on, and it's got that cool, fresh water, and you can kind of smell it, the freshness of the water as it comes out. And if you take that water and you push your thumb into it, and you can just spray a fine mist of spray. So now that you've got the sight and the feeling of the cool water and the fine mist and the smell of it, and then the light hits it, and then these rainbows appear, and it's just something that you just get lost into. So pretty soon you're not watering the ground anymore. You're lost in this whole aesthetic thing that's happening, and that's really where you go when you're creating in your studio, I think.
You know, it's funny because as you were describing that, I was feeling it. I was feeling the emotion of it. And I think that's what gets our clients to buy our work too, is that feeling of emotion, that they're emotionally invested in the work. It makes them feel some way that puts them in that place where it's no longer about the money, it's about how they feel.
Right.
And as long as
Right.
you can keep them in that emotional state and not take them to their head, you can do just about anything with people, which is why everything these days are so emotional. But yeah, that was a perfect analogy and description, because I was right there. I was feeling the water. It was really good. Perfect. So a lot of artists get attached to their work and they have a hard time parting with it. So I see a lot of new artists especially have this problem. But for others, it's about the journey. It's about the making of the piece. What's more of a drive for you? Is it easy for you to let go of the work that you make? Do you get attached, or is it about that whole process and journey through each piece that you make?
Well, it's definitely about the process. Because on the journey, you take the side trips and you go to different places that you've never expected before, discover new things, try new techniques. So the journey is definitely part of it. And it does get easier to part with things, but I can see, especially students, they're making breakthroughs with every piece that they make. This is something that they've never done before. So of course that's something it's special. It's the souvenir from the journey. They want to hang on to it. I think as you get more professional and as you're making collections and things like that, it's less about those pivotal pieces. So it makes it a little easier to let them go. But there's still really special pieces that are pivotal in any professional's life that are just harder to let go. So thank goodness for digital cameras. Now we can snap pictures of everything.
That's so true. And I think now that you say that, I think it's really good to keep your first few pieces, especially, or maybe milestone pieces, especially when you have things that happen in your life. You lose a loved one, for God forbid, or your parents, or you go through something, to keep those pieces, because everything you experience in life changes your work a little bit or influences your work. And the nuggets you're sharing are so good. They just give me like goosebumps, because I think you do such a good job of verbalizing that. So thank you. Okay, so my next question is, you do all sorts of creative endeavors in your studio, which is amazing, like creating your own original designs, taking in repairs, restorations, and teaching or hosting workshop classes. Can you tell us a little bit about what influences your design, a little bit about taking on a repair or restoration, and what you love about being a teacher or the education experience?
Well, yeah, so having a brick and mortar, you get a lot of local traffic, and people expect certain things out of a jewelry store, and they come in and we try to educate them that this isn't the normal jewelry store. This is a artisan jewelry store. So we make things specifically for you, or everything here is one of a kind, or something that's all handmade. So yes, we can do jewelry repairs, but that's not what we're here to do. So sometimes it's hard you don't want to drive business away. I take repairs in if I have the time, but I really need to reserve that special time at the bench for clients that are waiting for special work. But I do really love to do some types of restoration work. The piece that's up there right now, oh yeah, there's the restoration. So this was a tiny little tea set that I did and restored to its glory. Tiny miniature. Look how tiny it is. So when somebody brought that to me, and it was a mother of a friend of mine too, so personal, a personal friend. So yeah, when you find something so cute and fun like that, it's like you wanna fix it up. So
Hard
that
to
was
say
a
no.
neat one.
Hard to say no to
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
right?
It's hard to say no. It's like absolutely I want to play with that little tea set. Yeah, make new little lids for it and shine it all up. But a lot of times it's just taking old family jewelry and restyling it for the next generation, which is super rewarding.
Is that
And
what this
then
is? The piece that's
yeah,
up?
that was yep, that was a total restoration. So that's like taking old jewelry and melting it down and pulling the diamonds out and rearranging things so it's all new again and all excited and ready for the next generation of people.
I don't
So
know if you saw the comments on the group, but that one got a lot of comments about how
did
beautiful it was. Yes, yes.
it? Well, I'll relay that to its happy new owner. Yeah, she was happy about that.
Now, this is a picture of your studio, right?
Yep. I snapped that last week during Guided Studio. So that's just a lot of people working on their own projects. I just kind of pop around and help people with what they're working on if they need help. And that's our newly distant studio. We moved our benches apart, and we got the plexiglass up and but yeah, it's a lot of fun. That's our community here in Michigan. And this picture is our resident artist.
Nice.
It's like yeah. So that was all together. I
That's
think that was
nice.
Christmas.
It's great to have such a great community, both of influx of new people coming in, and you've got just retail people, and then you've got this great community of makers that you see every day or often enough in your space. And
Yeah.
I think that's really nice because so many of us work in seclusion and it gets lonely. So that's why we're on Facebook all the time, because we don't really have anybody else to, stand around the water
Yes.
cooler and talk to.
That's right. It is fun. And your husband doesn't really get what you do half the time in the studio. So these people get you. So it's nice to have that community.
I work with my husband. I don't work with him in my company, but he works down the hallway, and I often get these little memes like "stop the hammerings," all these funny things popping up. So yeah, they want to understand, but sometimes they just have had enough of the noise. So tell me about your favorite technique. What lights you on fire when you get to do it in a project?
Well, the fire lights you on fire. I love everything about the fire. That goes way back to the kids. When I was a kid, sticking my fingers in the candle wax and playing with fire and making fires. But no, I really love the heat and being able to understand how it moves and how to work with it to get it to do what you want it to do. And I don't know, I just love soldering and everything about the heat. But I love all the processes. It's like asking an artist what their favorite color is. It's like everything. I like it all.
I don't know if I have that. I have certain favorites, but it's you're right. There's not a stone I haven't met that I don't really like or wouldn't take if somebody gave to me. So I guess I can't really say that. But
Right.
so this is another beautiful piece. So lovely. So my next question is, what's on your bench now?
Yeah. Okay. I have a lot of custom work that's on my bench right now. If you looked at my bench, you'd see like stacks of job envelopes for either little repairs or custom work and things like that. Obviously, all my summer shows were canceled this summer, so my production kind of took a back seat. But luckily, I have a local business so that I could really focus in on, oh, there's some job envelopes there.
Yeah.
So I could really focus in on, building the local walk-in traffic and helping clients make their special pieces. And then I also work on, that piece right there, that's like a broken mason jar that was, it's going to be a narrative piece with broken mason jar pieces. And I've got big plans for that. And then that piece with all the cabs, all those cabs already have bezels around them. You probably can't really see too good from that picture, but that's pretty much where production starts. Is you just start. I just make batches of settings for stones and then work those into designs later. So a little bit of everything: production, narrative stuff, custom work, all
Yeah,
that.
that's really
And it's
great.
all a mess.
Well, what would it be if it was clean? But that's a really good example of working efficiently. You know, instead of working one-offs and one of a kinds all the time, to work in stages like this. So you're at the torch all day, maybe, and the next one day you're polishing, and it's really, that's a really great example of being organized with your stones and your different projects. So that's a really nice tip for everybody to take. And it's nice to see how someone else does it. You know, maybe it's going to light a fire for somebody, give them some insight about how to work more efficiently. When someone wears your work, how do you want them to feel? What do you want it to invoke in them? What emotions?
I would like them to feel that connection. I think we talked about that, well, it's really them to feel that kind of connection to, and to have it be something that they just can't put down or can't walk away from, or it's got to compel them in some way. And a lot of times they can't describe why they like it so much, and it might be just a color that reminds them of something emotionally, or a place or a person or a style of art that they love or something. But sometimes you just can't say why you love it, but I just want them to feel that kind of connection to my work.
That's great. Yep, I get that. And is there something that you do on a daily basis to prepare yourself for your creative day? Because I know for me, I used to tell people, even my warehouse that worked in the warehouse, to remember that whatever energy they were bringing to the day was going to be in that box of tools that they sent to the artist. And God forbid that artist would use a tool that had anger in it. So they probably thought I was crazy and woo woo, but I was like, no, you got to be in a good mood if you're packing up tools. So when you come in every day to your studio, do you have some kind of ritual that you do? Like some people like to light a candle, listen to a certain kind of music. What puts you in that creative mood for the day?
Well, I get a lot of the computer work done in the morning before I come in. So, and I'm really fortunate right now. We have a new person in the gallery, so I don't have to be here right to open and to do all the COVID wiping down and stuff. So I don't have to be here early. So I spend the morning at home, drinking coffee, checking my email, taking care of things, sourcing materials, do all the computer stuff. Because when I come in the morning to the bench, that's when I'm most productive. And if I spend any time in the morning on the computer in my studio, then that can suck the life out of me pretty quick. So when I get to my studio, I'm ready to sit down at the bench, and that's the biggest thing. And I do have one of those steam machines that I can put essential oils in to make it smell happy in there. But I do have a lot of great natural light, so it's just always a great place to relax and to be.
I saw you got a new big bench too.
I did get a new big bench. Yep.
See,
I love it.
Stalk your
I have empty
comments.
Drawers in my bench. Can you believe that?
That's just wrong. It's just totally wrong.
No, I know what you're talking about too, because Emma said something about my bench, and I said, yes, it is a new bench. Yep.
Okay, so tell us
I love
what
it.
your perfect studio day looks like. What if you could have a perfect day, what it would be? What would happen?
Oh, my perfect day. My perfect day would be probably spend, all of the time before lunch at the bench, making things, finishing things. I like to initiate things, but I really love the satisfaction of having something finished. Texting the client a picture of it, hearing their response, and then maybe coming in to pick up having a couple clients pick up things, because that's like one of my favorite parts besides making it. Another favorite part is having the client pick it up. and then maybe do a guided studio at night. So the whole community kind of comes in. It's like having the family over for Sunday dinner, that once a week when it's guided studio and everybody comes in and checks out what everybody else is doing. That would be my perfect day,
Yeah,
which is usually Wednesdays. Wednesdays are usually like that.
it's that all that energy, the great gratitude and the excitement and all that happiness that happens. I feel that way when I complete a project and didn't think I could, and it's done and it didn't melt down and it doesn't look terrible. There's I want to run around from the rooftop screaming, "Look at this piece! Look at this piece!" So you have a lot on your plate, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to know what your perfect day would look like. Because as a business owner, not often do we get those perfect days because there's so much going on, and you manage so much. You have, you manage your business tasks, which you have your marketing, you have your packaging and shipping and sourcing and employees, and then you have to balance that with making. So what advice do you have or insights do you have on how to do that without losing yourself and losing your happiness and your joy for the studio and the work?
Well, the biggest piece of that is the people that are behind me that are doing all of that. So I have my sister. She's amazing. She's probably online right now, here with us. But she can speak in my voice. So she does a lot of the marketing pieces, a lot of the posting, and a lot of the stuff from Studio JSD, from Studio JSD Gallery on the Instagram, on the Facebook. She does a lot of that. And she does a lot of the, if someone sends a gallery an email or something, then she's the voice that responds to that. So she's amazing. And then then I just have other staff. My daughter-in-law just started working here full time, so she's running the gallery. It's not just me, and they're all really careful and conscious of and respectful of my time at the bench, and they know that that's where I really need to be, and I shouldn't be spinning my wheels, changing the toilet paper roll and cleaning out the microwave, but got to do that too sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a team. It's just a huge team effort here.
And that's really important, is getting a team behind you and knowing when to do that, because oftentimes we wait too long, or we think, oh no, we can do it, or we're too controlling and we have to do it all ourselves. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes I made when I had my company, was not hiring enough people quick enough, and then I got behind, and then it snowballed in that pressure. So it's really nice that you have a team that you can count on and that has your back and will pick up that slack. So bravo, because that's one of the hardest things, is finding a good team that you can trust too. So of course we make work, and we sell tools and we teach classes, but a lot of artists don't like selling their work, and they can't embrace it, or they just want to hire a person to go around and sell their work. But really, selling your own work is an advantage, because you have poured your soul and emotions into making the piece, so no better person to sell your piece than yourself. So what kind of tips would you give people on selling their work, and what methods do you like to use for selling that you get either the biggest rewards from or the most pleasure from?
Well, for sure, it is way easier to sell somebody else's work than it is your own work, because when it's personal, it's just much harder. And I initially was never good at it. I started out at a fine jewelry retail store, and I worked there 15 years, so I could sell the diamonds, I could sell engagement rings and jewelry and everything there, and was trained to do it. But when it came to selling my own work at the art fairs, I got just really quiet. You just I don't know. There's some disconnect there, and there still kind of is. But I found that the best way to sell is just to be friendly with people and to tell them about your process and to tell them what excites you about this stone and where you bought it. Sometimes someone will say something like, oh, that's such a pretty blue stone, and you can tell them what it is and where it came from, or oh, I know, I couldn't walk away from it when I saw it at the gem show. Just tell them the little stories about it, in the process or creation of the piece, or the story if it's a narrative piece, and in it the work will sell itself.
Do you like
They're
doing
buying a piece of you, really.
Yes, exactly. And do you like doing shows? I'm showing some pictures of your booth. Or do you prefer the gallery
I love
setting?
it.
You love it.
I do. I love the diversification of everything. So if I would never want to be one of the artists that was on the circuit and did all the northern shows in the summer and the southern shows in the winter. I would get very burned out from that. But I like doing things seasonally. I like doing the shows in the summer, and I like settling into the gallery in the winter. And I think that's just a really good balance. So I like it both just as much.
So you have found the secret, and so
Yeah.
I was going to say everybody needs to open their own gallery in school, but no, don't do that. Don't do that.
Well, I think it's similar if you have work that other galleries are showing for you too.
Mm-hmm.
If you have just a handful of galleries that you're creating work for the winter months and for the popular holidays, and then you can settle into your routine in the summertime. I think that's still a pretty good balance.
Yes. So let's talk about your school in Grand Haven, Michigan. You celebrated 5-year anniversary this year, so congratulations.
Thank you.
And your studio.
Yeah, actually.
Your studio, so you're just Studio JST. Sorry about that time gap. There's a little lapse. So you have your Studio JST in Grand Haven, Michigan, and you have you teach there, but you also have outside instructors that come in. I've been dying to go there to take a class, and but then COVID happened, and so not a lot of classes are happening this year. So what are your plans for and goals for maybe next year or the end of this year? Do you have some classes coming up? Or are you putting those back in?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yep, we totally are. So we did celebrate 5 years. Thank you. We've celebrated 5 years at this location. But Studio JSD has been around since 2007, and this is our actual third location.
Oh, wow.
So it's been building slowly over the long haul. And we did have to cancel a lot of stuff. So what typically happens in the summertime here, we do have local artists that teach. Suk Young, who's our studio technician, she teaches a lot of really great project-based classes. Zach is one of our resident artists. He teaches classes here too. We have regionally other artists that come in and teach. But the summertime is usually where we have the real visiting artists, the ones that are traveling in from other states and beyond, to teach in the summertime, because that's usually when I'm on the road and I go on the road and I'm teaching, or I go on the road and I'm doing my shows. So that's when we bring in these other artists. So when those got canceled, when the artists couldn't travel anymore, then I didn't have shows. I kind of pulled up the bootstraps, and I'm like, okay, I did all of my bead and button show classes that were scheduled in Milwaukee. I did them right here in the studio. We called it Maker Palooza, and it was hugely successful. Sold out all the classes. And then I've been doing fabrication intensive classes. Sorry about the phone. Fabrication intensive classes here, a couple of sessions of those. So I've taught a lot here this summer, more than ever. So it's kind of an even exchange as far as classes go. And then our favorite visiting artists are definitely coming back next year. They're going to be on the schedule. Michael David Sterling, Richard Sally. We are having an inlay class with Chuck Bruce in October. There's a really wonderful artist named Michael Nasheff. He does sand casting. He's from Kalamazoo, so that's only an hour and a half away. So he's coming up this fall as well, actually soon. We just kind of shifted gears and kept things going, but we're doing good.
Well, no moss gets on you, that's for sure.
No. Nope.
It sounds like you just went to plan B. It's so great to hear people who just said, nope, this isn't going to stop me. I have another plan. I will pivot, because I pivoted. I was going to focus on just making work and selling work. and get out of the teaching game and realize that I love teaching. This is a really good time to be teaching and to be sharing information. So I pivoted also. And if you can't pivot, that's when things go bad. You need to be able to have a plan B. And even with your pieces, when you're working on your pieces, my piece tells me what it's supposed to be sometimes. And I don't fight it. I just say, okay, it's going to be this instead. So I applaud your efforts, and it sounds amazing. I can't wait to come. What else is in I've never been to Grand Haven. So what is in your town? Is it a big town, little town?
Grand Haven is a pretty little town, and we are in Michigan, and we are on the west side of Michigan, right along the lake shore of Lake Michigan.
Okay.
Lake Michigan, and in where we are regionally is very big stretches of sandy beaches. So we are a beach town, a beach community. It fills up in the summer. Usually, this COVID has kept obviously tourism down, but more people are doing staycations than ever. But yeah, so Grand Haven's a beautiful place to come visit, especially in the summer months. And we're really close to Grand Rapids, so 40 minutes from the Grand Rapids International Airport, so it's pretty easy to get in and out of. Lots of Airbnbs because we're a resorty kind of town, but yeah,
well, good.
But not fancy resort.
I'll look forward to it.
Yeah.
Okay, so my last question for you is, if you could have a billboard with anything on it, what would it be and why?
I have no idea. That one's hard. Because if I say like be nice, that just sounds silly. Or, don't take the world so seriously, or don't take everything so personally.
That would be a good billboard, though.
Simple. Yeah, don't take it all so personally. I think maybe just something simple like call your mother.
I like that one. That one's really good. Some of us can't do that anymore, so you should call your mom if your mom is still around.
Call your mom.
That's right. Okay, so now this is my favorite part because, I'm a bit of a tool junkie. So take us through your top 10 a la David Letterman. So we start with number 10 first. So I'll tell you what they are. I'll tell you which ones they are, and then you tell us a little bit about the tool, because I think it's really interesting to hear what are every artist's 10 top tools. They're always different, and it's really interesting because some of them I hadn't even heard of. So I had to go look those up, which is really cool. I thought I knew like every tool there was. And then some of them actually made me a little jealous. So I was like, can I fork up that money for that? No. Okay, I'm just going to enjoy it through you. So your number 10 top tool is the Whaley sliding hammer.
Yes. Yep. This is the Whaley sliding hammer, and I love it for bezel setting. So anytime that you would hammer set something, it's like the punch and the hammer all in one. And this hammer just slides up and down the punch. It's just super easy to hang on to and position, so you're not likely to crack a stone or something.
So you hold if you're right-handed, you hold the bottom of the pin with your left hand, and then you just move your hand back and forth. Okay. I can see how that would be very handy. So your number 9 is your vintage watchmaker bench, which not everybody can have. So make us jealous.
Oh, yeah. So a friend of mine, it was her father's watchmaker bench because her father was a watchmaker. She was a glass artist and she was moving to Florida. So, so she said, do you want it? And I was absolutely. It's so pretty.
Yes. Do you I think that things have energy. So I would be the person that would rub the top a lot, or I found this woman who gave up her dad's 40 different pliers that he had modified, and she sold them for like $20 on one of the groups. And I wrote her this long thing like, were these your dad's, or are you just getting out of making jewelry? And she told me they were her dad's, and I was like, oh, they're going to have so much meaning to me now. I'm going to think about when I use them, how he used them, and it's just, I'm very sentimental like that. So this kind of bench and your next one is just really, I just love that. So your number 8 is a large industrial flat file, which so lovely. And let me show what you put inside of it. Jealous.
Yep. Yeah.
Now, are those
So yeah,
stones you
there's a lot of
cut?
drawers in there. Metal findings, everything.
Did you cut these or are these?
Oh no, these are stones I buy. I can cut and do lapidary, but I don't have no, I don't have the patience to cut stones. And the ones that I cut are not nice. They're not pretty.
Those
I'd
look.
rather make the I'd rather do the metal than cut the stone.
Who are some of
I
your?
can, but
Yeah, it's
you know.
beautiful. Who are some of your favorite stone dealers? I know you love Gary. Who else? Gary Wilson.
Yeah, so if we look in that tray, you can see a lot of that. If Gary looked in that tray, he'd know which ones are his. Probably 70% of that stuff in there is Gary's. I like to buy stuff from the Gem Shop in Cedarburg, Wisconsin. They show in Tucson,
Mm-hmm.
at the Tucson Show Place.
Mm-hmm.
They have really beautiful stone material, and they're cut really well too. John Hausler has beautiful
Yes.
material. Yeah.
I used to have a really bad Gary problem until I learned to cut my own stones. So now that worked because now I'm like, you have to make your own. So you can't buy anymore. But I think 2 weeks ago I bought some from him because I just couldn't resist if I can't get the material. And I've also bought rough from the place you just said. And they have beautiful rough. Every year in Tucson I buy some. So yeah, that's a really good source. Your number 7, drum roll, is a Presidium Diamond Tester.
Yeah. So in the gallery, I do take in a lot of work, like the ring that we looked at earlier, where a customer brings in heirloom jewelry and stuff like that. It's a really good idea to test those diamonds just to make sure that they're diamonds, especially the big ones. You know, if they bring it to you and they think it's real and you give it back to them, and then they have it, appraised and it's not, then that doesn't look good for you. So I definitely, if it's white and sparkly, I test it.
Now, are you worried at all about lab stones? And a lot of these testers now, they say can't test between the lab stones and the real. So is this one that you feel is reliable for that?
Yeah, the one that I have will test, although what is the one? Moissanite?
Mm-hmm.
Moissanite might not show up.
Okay.
But if it's a vintage, if it's a vintage or ring or something, I can
You're safe.
pretty much rule out that that's going to have moissanite in it. So,
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything's getting trickier, isn't it? I even won't. And your next one, your next number 6 is the key gold tester, and for me that seems really important because I like to buy. I alloy my own gold, and I used to buy coin, and now I'm worried about buying coin because you don't know if that's all the way solid all the way through anymore, and you can't just say, hey, can I cut this open and see in front of the coin shop. Because they're only testing the outside, and you see so many horror stories about chains and things that are coming in, and they're hollow inside, and they don't even have gold inside. So this is a really good thing for everyone to have. Do you use it every day, or is it just, yes?
Yeah, and especially sometimes I have a little bit of something shiny and gold on the floor, and I can test it just to make sure that, if this little piece of thing on the floor, is it brass or is it gold,
Right. That's really good for your school, especially with what people drop on the floor. Okay, your number 5 is the Durston Air Max Polisher, which I didn't even know what that was, and then when I looked it up, I was very jealous.
Okay, so you know how polishers, even the best ones that have the filter in the back in the fan, you'll still get the red dust from the rouge on things. This doesn't. This I have in my own studio in the other room, and you put your hands in there, and it's like it's like the sandblaster where you just stick your hands in there, kind of, and it just keeps that dust down to a minimum. And there's a lot of good filters in there. So I got a screaming deal on it. AutoFry had it listed, or they sent an email a couple of years ago right after the Vegas show. And they said, we have the show model is available for this price. And I emailed them right away. I'll take it. So I bought the show floor model, but they shipped it to me
It's wonderful.
I got lucky.
Yes. And it's so important for your health because For so many years, I didn't have any vacuums or filters or anything, and I regret it now because I know, when you're in your 30s and 40s, you don't think about health problems and you don't think about issues, but they build up, and going to the doctor costs a lot more than buying one of these. And if I could pass on any advice to an artist, I would say, value your health and buy equipment that makes you live longer. Makes your job easier too. Okay, your number 4 is the vintage saw frame.
Yeah, I just love it for its aesthetics. I got it secondhand, and it's just got such a beautiful patina to it. The wood and the metal. I love it.
It's beautiful. It looks like it feels really good. Your number 3 is your Benchmate pin and ring clamp, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have this one?
I use it a lot.
Do you have this one that centers under the microscope?
No.
Or do you like the other one, the one that has a scoop in it?
I have the other one. It's like, hang on.
Yeah, it's the one that Blaine Lewis likes because I think he helped.
Like this one.
Yep, that's the one that Blaine helped innovate or manufacture. That. Yeah, because it has a scoop out of it so that you can file. But this one stays centered under the microscope, they said more. I think they work the same. They're both, either or works great. But it's a very handy thing to have in your studio for sure. And your number 2 is your Prismacolor pencils. Boy, the slide turned the opposite way, but everybody knows what those are. So when you sketch, you must like to use color, yes?
Yep.
I'm too lazy. I don't even sketch very much.
I do some in color. Yeah, I just love having the colors available to me. But usually if I counter sketch, I'll color it in for a client. Especially a lot of times I've skipped a lot. I've gotten lazy with my sketching, so I'll find stock photos of things and plop them in. So if I'm plopping in a picture of a white band or something, then I'll just color it in yellow. So I don't know.
Whatever works. If it's efficient and it gets the idea across. I wish I could sketch like Remy or Remy, but whatever works.
If they can tell what it is.
And your number your number 1 tool is your sketchbook. And so do you have one for do you go through one like every year, every month? How often do you fill these up, and do you have a collection of them?
I do. I have a collection of them, and probably every year. And it's fun sometimes when I teach design in my classes. I'll pull out some of my old sketchbooks and just show them just how to just sit down and sketch. And sketches don't even have to be any good, but just something to document where you're going and what you're doing. So I really recommend that to anybody. Anybody is to sketch in sketchbooks because, even if you're going through a creative block. Or something, especially with COVID, people were just unmotivated and didn't feel like working, and there was something lacking for sure with everybody. But if you pull out old sketchbooks and just start flipping through, sometimes that's a really good motivator, and you just remember things, taking you back to when you were in college and you were working on the series of whatever it was, and you just want to revisit those things, whether it inspires you to do something else or not. It's just really.
Yes, I would love to. Are you still there, Julie? Hello?
I'm still here.
Oh, good. You went and then you went out for a few seconds. I would love to look at all your sketchbooks. I think.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Well, hopefully.
Oh, no.